It is a real pleasure to welcome you here tonight. So before we get started on our main program, I would like to begin our evening with an acknowledgement of our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Ahashiman and Tongva peoples. Our program tonight is co-sponsored by UCI Illuminations and supported by the Andrew W. Mellon Fellowship for Diversity, Inclusion, and Cultural Heritage at the Rare Book School. This evening, we are honored to have several important speakers, and one of my colleagues will be providing introductions for each of the speakers in just a moment. But I did want to say how much we are so grateful to have at tonight's event the three co-authors of A People's Guide to Orange County, Elaine Lewinick, Gustavo Arellano, and Tuivo Dang. The two co-founders of the Educate to Empower initiative, Stacy Young and Virginia Wen. And the executive director of the Heritage Museum of Orange County, Jamie Heber. Now, during our program, our speakers will be sharing how the book, A People's Guide to Orange County, and related archival materials are being used to develop an educator's guide to Orange County diversity. The book, A People's Guide to Orange County, challenges popular images of Orange County by telling its history through the lens of diverse and underrepresented communities. An educator's guide to Orange County diversity is grounded in anti-racist and culturally sustaining pedagogy and includes curriculum resources for Orange County educators centering on local history, diversity, community, representation, as well as in-service workshops for teachers. Now here's the plan and the sequence for our program. Audra Eagle-Yoon, who is our head of special collections and archives and the university archivist, will give introductions for each of our speakers. Then we will have brief presentations by each of the speakers. And after that, there will be a panel discussion and Q&A with the audience, moderated by Audra, and also Dr. Crystal Tribbett, UCI Library's research librarian for Orange County and curator for Orange County Regional History. At the end, I'll have some closing brief remarks. And following the program, we invite you to enjoy some refreshments on the patio and the chance to view some archival materials in our conference room, which is over to the left, my left there. Please note that no food or drink will be allowed in the conference room. So without further ado, I'd like Audra to come up to the podium.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Lorelei. I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers today. So first we have Elaine Lewinick, who is an urban historian and American Studies professor at California State University, Fullerton, where she also coordinates the master's program in environmental studies. Co-author of A People's Guide to Orange County, she is also the author of The Working Man's Reward, Chicago's Early Suburbs, and the Roots of American Sprawl. Gustavo Arellano is a writer and journalist and featured contributor for the Los Angeles Times. He is the former publisher and editor of the OC Weekly, author of Ask a Mexican, Orange County, A Personal History, and Taco USA, How Mexican Food Conquered America, all available via Scribner, and a co-author of A People's Guide to Orange County. Dr. Tuivo Dang is an assistant professor of information studies at UCLA and the former curator of the Southeast Asian Archive and research librarian for Asian American Studies here at UCI. She is a co-author of the books A People's Guide to Orange County and Vietnamese in Orange County. Stacy Young, co-founder of Educate to Empower, is a former middle school teacher, history teacher, who currently supports educators as a thought leader, mentor, and curriculum developer. She speaks at and organizes conferences focused on culturally sustaining pedagogy, social justice, and student-centered learning experiences. Virginia Nguyen, also a co-founder of Educate to Empower, Initiative is a high school history teacher with over 15 years of teaching experience and a diversity, equity, inclusion, and allyship trainer. She has national experience with educator training and curriculum development. Jamie Heber is the executive director at Heritage Museum of Orange County and has worked in the museum and nonprofit sectors for more than a decade. She's on the Orange County Archives and Action Committee and a former board member of the Orange County Historical Society. All of our guests are partners for an Educator's Guide to Orange County, Diversity, making visible underrepresented communities and their histories in Orange County, a project made possible by the National Writing Project's Building a More Perfect Union Pandemic Recovery Grants for Humanities organizations. Additional partners include Human Relations of Orange County and the UCI Libraries. So, we will begin our evening asking each of our speakers to briefly talk about their research and collaborations to amplify the diverse, complex history of Orange County. Thank you.
Okay. Do we need this?
Yeah, because I'm sure they're recording it somehow.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out on a cold night. So the three of us wrote a book, and
Where is it? Where's the physical
it's there. Jamie has one. Oh no, I have one there.
Here we go.
Thank you so much. There we go. We wrote this book because Orange County gets misunderstood, and it gets remembered as what Gustavo very well calls the orange crate memory. And even if you're not used to orange crates, you know those labels. It's part of the logo for this event. They're labels that show it as this paradise of flowers and sunshine that doesn't actually have any of the people in it. And so we wanted to bring the people back. And by people, we mean anybody who are under others, who are the subaltern people, the youth, LGBTQ people, people of color, the people who don't always get remembered. So one of the images that inspires me is this image here. This is Lucy Gutierrez, who in 1972 walked out of her class along with thousands of other students to demand culturally relevant curriculum. And they walked to the parks in Santa Ana. They also wanted more Spanish-speaking staff. They wanted an end to mass suspensions. They didn't get any of it in 1972. They actually all got suspended. But we're starting to get it now. We have so many educators working to bring relevant curriculum in. And so it's been great that we created this book, and I'll let my co-authors talk too, and then we get to see this book make its way out into the world, not just into university classrooms, but in K through 12 classrooms.
Yeah, it's surreal for me to see people so interested in whatever you want to call them, hidden histories of Orange County, unknown histories of Orange County, radical histories of Orange County. They're all of that. I have spent almost the entirety of my journalistic career, not anymore, I have to cover LA now, whatever. But I spent most of my career covering these stories for a newspaper that no longer exists called OC Weekly. And when I would do these stories, we would get so much pushback saying, well, why do you have to bring up the past? Why do you, literally, why do you have such a biased view of history? Why do you attack all these people who did good work in the past and their work was absolutely terrible? But you did the work because it had never been really brought out so publicly before. So to be able to work on this book, and I always call it co-book, my co-book with Twee and our co-book, and to have had the incredibly overwhelmingly positive reaction that it has had, and then to get interest from teachers, educators, students, just regular, quote unquote, regular people who want to know more and to take tours and then to bring it back to their classes. I mean, this ain't John Wayne's Orange County anymore. It's not even my Orange County anymore. And that's an amazing, amazing thing. So for all of you who do, if you haven't read it, read it. And if you have read it and want to spread the gospel around, I mean, this is just really a draft of history. All of you now have the mandate to keep telling these stories, and more importantly, to fill out this book, because it is an incomplete book by our own admission right at the beginning. It is your jobs to make it bigger.
I'll echo what Gustavo says, and as much as no history book is can be complete or comprehensive, no archive is complete. And so to give you kind of a sense of the journey that we've been on in working together in collaborating on this book, it is older. This journey is older than this space that you're in. So we embarked on it when the Southeast Asian Archive was a room in Langston Library across the way. So this space was opened in 2015. I believe we started working on it before in 2014.
Yeah.
Although I remember a lot of meetings in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I think the gel that, holds all of this work together, and for kind of the chemistry between us, is our interdisciplinary background and training. Gustavo is a journalist, Elaine is an urban historian, my background in archives and ethnic studies. And if you had told me 7 years ago that we'd be sitting here today talking to you about this other life that this book is having in this last year, I would not believe it, because it seems like a complete dream come true. 20 years ago, when I was in grad school for ethnic studies, I didn't know if I could even get a job, truthfully, and what I would do with an ethnic studies degree. And today, I see the demand for ethnic studies, and I say it's about time. And I see our book intervening in these conversations, not being the final say in any of these conversations, but hopefully provoking people to look again and ask questions and examine what they know about the past and about the places where they make home and are trying to create belonging for themselves and for each other.
So to give you an impression, these are some of the stories we tell from just this area in Irvine. We tell the story of Mary Pham, who defied her homeowners association, who told her she couldn't put up a pride flag.
And you know how hard that is in Irvine.
She did the pride lights. We tell the story of Shaima Hall. That's the garage in Irvine, looking like so many other garages in Irvine, but she was a young girl kept enslaved in that garage until the neighbors noticed and called authorities. And she is safe now and has written a memoir. We tell the stories of UC Irvine. These are the bottom two pictures. I don't want to attempt his name, but he is a man from Samoa who was brought here as a kind of living museum, almost like a zoo, to look at this creature making boats. And you can find in UC Irvine archives, this is a still from the video of him making boats. And I love it because there's a car, you can see it's Irvine, but you can also see this Samoan boat making. And we could find his story that doesn't get told much, that he wasn't just an object of fascination. He was an actor who negotiated for a better salary. And we can tell those stories. We can tell the story of the farm school that was part of UC Irvine when it was more experimental. There's all sorts of nuances to that story. I think Twee's done most of this research. We still remember who wrote the original part of each entry that we all chimed in on. So do you want to chime in on any of these Irvine stories?
Only to share that, the work of the archival research, as many of you in this space I think know and can appreciate, is long and hard, right? But it also demands engagement with voices that are sometimes silenced or on the margins of what's in the records. And I think, what makes, for me, the continued work with educators today, and you'll hear from Virginia and Stacy about this, is that they're doing the interpretive work on top of the interpretive work that we've done to really translate and make accessible, items in the archives that are very difficult to first locate, okay, and then really make sense of, and then to be able to tell a coherent story and link it to a broader historical context, right, situated in relation to the communities that are still here. So that's all I'll say about that. We do want people to buy our book and read it, right?
Yeah. Well,
let's not give it all away, Elaine.
I love that these spaces look ordinary, but they're also extraordinary. And that is another key for the book for me. It is a book about the extraordinary ordinary. Just the way that the spaces all around us have deeper histories and more complex power relations than are usually recognized. It's also a book about resistance. And so part of what we got to find in the archives was old chants that activists had used. Orange County is famous for its conservatism, but that kind of libertarianism actually led to some LGBTQ successes earlier than you would think. In the 1980s, there were important cases for LGBTQ rights here, including at UC Irvine accessing family housing, which is what this picture is of, where there was a brief rule in the 80s that gay people counted as families, and then it was rescinded and gay people protested. And that we can learn the things they chanted here as they insisted on their right to be called a family long before anybody else was negotiating for legalized gay marriage. It was about housing in Irvine, but it was also about who counts here and who gets what. And we are so lucky that somebody recorded that chant and somebody saved it and somebody filed it away, and now we can share it with you. All right, let's see if I can do this without turning it off. So this is what you heard Audra speaking about. We are even luckier that we've gotten to partner with a lot of community organizations, because nobody tells the story of a county alone. You do it together. And especially with Virginia and Stacy and Jamie, we've been doing these things. This is Gustavo's wife's restaurant. These are walking tours. This is this very room of looking through the archives with K through 12 teachers. But I'm going to let them talk more because we're already over time, I think. So I'll just say you can find our book. You can soon find the curriculum if you go to the Heritage Museum's website. You can follow us on Instagram. We have some postcards in case you want to buy the book. They have a discount code on them. And we'll be at the OC Archives Bazaar soon. But now I want to pass it on to Virginia and Stacy. They'll tell you more about this work. Yeah.
So if you're unfamiliar, Heritage Museum of Orange County, we are located in Santa Ana. Or as I learned on our first workshop, it's also Santana. Or there's various pronunciations, and I was really excited when I went on the walking tour with our 3 authors to learn so. We are a cultural and natural history center focused on hands-on, minds-on education. This grant that we received from National Writing Project is technically a relief grant from COVID. And when I was first approached by our amazing partners to be a part of this as the host organization, we were down to a total staff of 3 at the museum. We were running everything. And it really, when you're faced with a global pandemic, you think to yourself, where does a local history museum fit in? What is our purpose? What can we provide to our community? And how can that extend not just beyond, education and information sharing, but, especially in our immediate community, there was a lot of food insecurity and a multitude of challenges. And so we really wanted to dive deep into our mission and how we can fulfill the community's needs in every way possible. And, we were working on a different grant, and we had some college interns that were working with us, and we were asking them to dive into civil rights history in Orange County, specifically Santa Ana. And these students were like, they kept coming back to us. We can't find anything. There's nothing out there. We can't find anything. And we said, exactly, because you are doing the work. You are digging this up with what we call primary sources. And there was this immediate look of, oh, wow, this is awesome. I get to do this. And then it shifted to, oh, this is a big responsibility. And then the third wave of that was, how do I do that? Where do I go? What do I do? And, it was kind of sad because I'm like, okay, this isn't something that's taught in K through 12 schools. looking for primary sources. We are taught information from secondary sources, but where do they get their information? And these were seniors in college. Some of them were getting their master's degrees. And so there was an immediate need for that. But, as a nonprofit historical museum / community museum, we can only provide so much. And with any massive project and any time that you are really trying to start, if I may say, a movement within our younger generations, which is also weird for me to say because I still feel like I'm 20, but it's something you need assistance with. And so I saw the need, but I didn't have a solution for how to make this easy, because accessibility is such an essential element to all of this work. And then these little archivist, author, educator angels showed up, and I received one day this email, and it said, hey, there's this incredible opportunity with the National Writing Project. And it's a relief grant, but specifically dedicated to organizations doing work like Heritage Museum. And that was incredible that even existed. And then for our community to come to Heritage Museum, to come to me and recognize us as worthy, and to understand that, yes, we are here to do this work, we want to do this work, we were all in. It was really magical. And then they said, we want to use People's Guide to Orange County as our textbook. And I'm like, yes. And we also want to include local educators in the K through 12 realm. And we're going to interview people, and they're going to be a part of this project. And I said, yes. It just, everything magically came together. And so we applied for the grant, and we were so fortunate to receive the grant to do this work. And it's a true collaboration between having the authors of this incredible book, which I have a lot of personal connections to as I read it, right at our fingertips, to have UCI libraries here to offer assistance in teaching our educators how to provide resources to their students. Because here I was with collegiate students, and they didn't know how to do it. So we don't want them to get to that point and go, now what? Like, what happened? We want to teach them before that. So whether it's 5th grade or 11th grade, we need to give them those tools early so that when they get to college, they're like, I got this. And they know that they can come to us in the community for these primary sources, and we can give them a pathway to not just learn, because information is so important. It's so important, but what we do with that information is most important. And every single one of you, if you're a student or an educator, we all have that power. And it's really nice to know that you are supported by all of us as well. We primarily work at the museum. We see school field trips, usually 1st through 5th grade. And it's really magical to see that little spark in their minds when we show them our archives, because that's something that their teachers are like, they don't see that, right? And it's equally important that each of those students feel represented in our archives, because if starting from birth, if we don't see ourselves in these stories that we're sharing, what does that mean? Where do we go from there? So why should they care if they're not a part of it? And our role at Heritage Museum is to make sure that all heritage and cultures are represented. And I am no expert. I am more kind of here to provide a platform for the experts to share their histories. And we are so grateful to do so. And I hope I get to chat with some of you afterwards. I'm here for you too. And now on to the educators, which we actually have some of our educational collaborators here, as well as our community advisors. It's really incredible. But yes, we are just a snippet of this work, and it would not have happened at all without our teachers. And that is Stacy and Virginia. Okay, thank you.
How is anyone supposed to follow up with that hype?
You can.
I'm Stacy and this is Virginia, and we are so thrilled and excited to finally share what we've been working on for so long, which is an Educator's Guide to Orange County Diversity Project. I know we keep saying this, but truly this was this dream partnership. It couldn't have been done without all of these partners, including our curriculum developers, which will have their own slide very soon. But that's what made this magical. I mean, as an educator for 15 years, you know, and same with Virginia, we were always like, we're working in silos. We're trying to do all this on our own. And it takes a lot of time, so much time. And so finally, when we figured out, like, why not connect with the authors? Why not connect with the archives? So it was this magical moment connecting authors, organizers, community leaders, museums, experts, archivists, and educators, and that is what made this project possible. A big part of our vision for this project when we started, so this quote comes from Cultivating Genius by Dr. Goldie Muhammad, was everything everyone already said earlier, but also this idea of criticality. How can we help teachers, how do we help nurture this criticality for teachers as we start thinking about curriculum? What is curriculum about? What does it look like? Who are we serving? How are we centering it? But also, how can we nurture this criticality for our students, for all students, K-12 and beyond, every subject matter, and not just where it sometimes falls into, which is history classes. When we think about teaching about Orange County history. And so how do we kind of blow up that model of what we think and really kind of do this differently? And this was kind of the vision and our shining light, what we were really focused on. Another big focus for us, knowing that ethnic studies will be implemented in California schools very soon, some already started, was making sure our curriculum was in alignment with the California framework for ethnic studies. So all of our lessons, when they will be built on the website that will be made public, will all follow this alignment. They all follow our outcomes, the values. They will all be tied into one of the major ethnic studies curriculum, and that's was really important to us. But I think what also makes us different, again, many people assume ethnic studies only belongs in history or social studies, is that this is actually cross-curricular, and that we are trying to show you what this can look like in every grade level and every subject. And that was possible due to our phenomenal group of curriculum developers, two of them here, Nahi and Kiersey. Truly, I mean, this was like, these are the curriculum developers writing all the curriculum. So we tried to, again, be intentional of having different subject matters represented, different age groups represented, so that these lessons, when they're made public, that any educator can look at that and be inspired, can adapt it. Maybe it is a history lesson that I wrote, but maybe another teacher can say, you know what, I talk about this too. Let's adapt it for math. Let's adapt it for science. How do I do that? Well, here's how. We have math examples, science examples, art examples, elementary examples. And so that was really what we were hoping to do. And we're just so excited to be able to share this with all of you very soon.
Hi everyone, I'm Virginia. I'm so excited to be here, and I am so wowed by the turnout, and I'm so jittery and nervous, but okay. So as I'm listening to the authors speak, to Jamie speak, to Stacy speak, to be here in this space, UCI Libraries, where I went to school. So all of it is just like so emotional for me, but I share this with you because so much of teaching generally just comes from the heart. So as I speak with you about what it is that we did, I want you to know that yes, there is a lot of brain work that went into this, but it came from the heart of all the partners that worked together to build this. And there are several aha moments that I've had. So since starting this, I will share with you, I am not the same teacher that walked into this program and this project as I am the one walking out. And that's because what it's done for me is it's grown my world. It's funny because now it's like zooming in on local history, but what it's done is it actually expanded my own world. So I'm excited to share this all with you. And one of the things I wanted to really make sure I didn't forget to say is it all started with an email. Right? It all started with an email. And I want that to really sit with everyone, because it started with an email, and the email really was an invitation to dream together and to see what we could create together. There was a need out there, and instead of looking for someone to address that need, my dream was that maybe I can gather people to address that need together with Stacy, with all of us. And that's how we have all of you here today, and we're going to share with you what came from that dream. So here are just a few of the many lessons that our curriculum developers created that we are so excited to share with you. And imagine, I know for myself, this was not the lens in which I learned history. It was not the lens in which I experienced K-12. To start locally, to start with my story, to start with my neighbor's story, my friend's story, it didn't start that way. So imagine what K-12 education can look like when we start there. So here are some lesson examples that I want to share with you. We have Kirsty developed a lesson on missions to ask about the criticality of missions. What is the mission project, and what are we learning and teaching? And what would it look like if we dismantled that version and we taught it in a different way, in a way that honors the histories that came with where we live actually is? That takes us to another lesson that Stacy developed, right? What would it look like to return Orange County stolen land? What does that actually mean? What does that look like, right? We have others about the murals and about the power of murals and vandalism and the history that is ongoing from that. We have a math lesson that is tied to Disney. I don't want to give it away because I want everyone to look at it because it's awesome. Okay. For the younger ones, we have a lesson up here that's talking about the Chinese and Chinese American history here in Orange County, specifically in Santa Ana. And then to try to, as an introduction to this idea of what is Orange County, there's a lesson that says, let's take a look at Orange County and as our community redefine it. So it's about how does the rest of the country and the world see Orange County? When you do a search for the real OC, what comes up? And then I want you to really think about the actual real OC. Right? Orange County's diversity. So this is just a taste of the wonderful lessons that our curriculum developers have created from K through 12 in interdisciplinary, multiple levels, stages, topics. Really excited to share. Now, that excitement is like great and all, but I will share with you that the real excitement is that the students loved it. So Kirsty and I both teach in Irvine, and we teach at Portola High School. In one of our, yes, right? Yes, we have some ISD representation here, right? And during one of our Saturday meetings, we're like, gosh, I'm so excited about the lessons we're creating. And then we looked at each other, and at the exact same moment, we go, we should make a class at Portola. And that's what we did. So next year, we will be offering a People's History to Orange County Art and History interdisciplinary course. Yes, I'm so excited about it. And what we have is the voice of students on why they're the ones that want this class, right? So again, it started with an email, it started with a dream, and now this is about impact. And so what I'm going to share with you is the story from Portola News Network, PNN, and what they did a story about our class, and I wanted to show it to you.
As springtime approaches, it's time to start considering the classes you might want to take next year. One of the new courses being offered at Portola is the History of Orange County. We sat down with the instructors, Mrs. Thompson and Miss Nguyen, to gain some insight into how they developed this class.
Orange County has been referred to as the OC bubble. However, behind its affluent suburbs is an unsettling truth of limited representation and inclusivity in the community. Ms. Thompson and Ms. Nguyen have taken it upon themselves to ignite change.
I grew up in Irvine. I actually went to Woodbridge High School, so being in such a diverse city is super cool, but it can be also really easy too because we all get along so well. We start to think we're in this bubble, right? We always call Irvine a bubble, and we think that our bubble is safe, our bubble can never be popped, and then when we come up against things like what happened at the basketball game, we start to see the bubble get popped, and it's uncomfortable. We don't know what to do with that.
Living in a sheltered community can lead to a limited perspective, and Ms. Nguyen, with her own experiences, knows the importance of embracing diverse perspectives for a deeper understanding of the world.
I'm Vietnamese American, and my parents are Vietnamese refugees. So what that means is that they came over here because they were escaping the Vietnam War and the lasting impacts of it becoming communist. In high school, the only time I learned about the Vietnam War was when we were covering it from the American point of view. But the way that it was framed was one where, look at this really shameful event in America's history. We're embarrassed of it. And I'm sitting there as a Vietnamese American thinking, wow, my parents and the Vietnamese American refugee community that I belong to and live around talks about America as our savior. But I feel really embarrassed. I have these two really conflicting views of it now. Like, am I ashamed or am I proud? Am I American or am I not? And that's when I realized how much power there is in my story, how much power there is in being Vietnamese American, how much power there is in knowing history.
Drawing upon their experiences growing up in Irvine, Ms. Thompson and Ms. Nguyen decided to take action by creating the first interdisciplinary course at Portola High School.
So, traditionally the way that K-12 curriculum is taught is that sometimes we're missing the story of those who are not in power, those who are not the main faces of what is defined as America. So the point of the People's History of Orange County is to provide a class for students that is specifically about historically marginalized communities.
By exploring historic landmarks through a culturally diverse lens, the two hoped to provide students with a more complete understanding of the world around them.
What we're hoping for in this course is that students would feel more equipped to be able to stand up and say that it's wrong. In order to handle those situations, you need to be able to do a lot of research, do a lot of understanding of the world around you and of how different people groups think and talk and communicate. When you're dealing with issues of racism and sexism, it can start to feel overwhelming how prevalent it is, but I hope that in seeing how prevalent it is, it also sparks how important it is to make those changes.
Their dedication to promoting equality serves as an inspiration for us all to strive for a more inclusive future. So this spring, discover the history of Orange County and join the effort to make a positive impact by enrolling in the Ethnic Studies course.
Aren't kids amazing? Like, they're amazing, so talented, amazing storytellers, and if you just take the time to listen to them, they will tell you what they need, right? And that's what Kirsty and I did. The class came because, one, we were interested in it, but we also knew there was a need for it because students were already asking the kind of questions that would lead us to see that they wanted a class like this. So I'm so proud to share with you the work that we've done together and will continue to do. I will also share with all of you, feel free to send me that dreaming email, okay? Because I'm a dreamer and I want to dream with you. And I know all of us in our community of collaborators are as well. This is just one example of the way a dream can lead to impact. And we invite you to use the resources that we're creating, but we also invite you to join us and share in this dream with us and then build your dreams as well. So thank you.
Here's our contact info to send an email or DM so that we can dream together.
So thank you so much, Twee, Gustavo, Elaine, Jamie, Stacy, and Virginia. to introducing us to the work that you do. It is beyond amazing. And I think if you were sitting in the audience, you could hear a little bit of like the the gas and the head nods. And so you've already inspired everybody. And we want to give people an opportunity to ask you some questions, and people are ready. So if you just raise your hand, and I'll try to get to you in order that I see you. Okay, so yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Alan Seniors. I graduated from here in 1972, so I'm from way back. And talking about being a dreamer, my Native American moniker given to me by my father's dream dancer. So I'm always dreaming. I dance in my dreams at all time. But Elaine, you showed a picture up there of in 1972 when students left the school.
Yes.
What school was that? And if you recall,
I have to check in my book. It was actually,
it's okay, because I
was 6 different schools. Some of them walked 7 miles to get to that park.
I want to tell you a little bit about that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no,
but
go for it.
I graduated from here in '72, and I'm not a merit scholar. I was taken off the streets of East LA because they needed minorities. I was one of the first 13 minority students that came to UC Irvine. There were some blacks and some Mexicans and a couple of Italians and a Puerto Ricans, and most of us did not graduate. I did. So I was a quota student, not a merit scholar. So when I graduated in '72, I was recruited to become a teacher because of that walkout. And because of that, I said, sure, I'll become a teacher. So I went through UC Irvine intern program, and three blacks and three Hispanics and 2 blacks were sent to a school in Santa Ana called at that time Smedley Junior High School, and it was the most violent school in the area at that time because gangs were just coming from East LA. But anyway, go beyond that. There was only 3 Hispanics that were there and 2 blacks. And when I finally finished the intern program, if I may stand up? Okay, when I finally finished the intern program and I was asked to become a teacher, sure. And when I was asked to be, I'm going to be quick. I don't want to take a lot of time because there's a lot of questions to be asked. But I wanted to add that all this didn't start in the 80s or the 90s. I mean, this started in like 65, 66, 67, 68 when I came over here. And when I first came to UC Irvine, as I was telling Gustavo, I'd never seen so many blonde-haired, blue-eyed people in my life. They except in movies and on TV, right? So when I came here, I was a real culture shock. But when I went to become a teacher in Santa Ana Unified at Smedley Junior High, when I was asked to interview for becoming a teacher, the only question the principal asked me was, did I speak Spanish? And I said, yeah. And he said, I was hired. So again, I was not hired by merit. I was hired because they needed Spanish-speaking teachers. But I wanted to say that because of that walkout, and I think you mentioned that possibly nothing happened from there.
Well, they got suspended.
They got suspended. They got suspended for a good reason, because that really opened up doors to a lot of Hispanics going to the Santa Ana Unified and becoming teachers. And to talk about the Southeast Asian refugees. 1973, 74, 75, I was teaching what is called English as a second language, and we had all the refugees coming over from Camp Pendleton, and I had the opportunity of developing a lot of the ESL curriculum for the Vietnamese and the Cambodians and the Laotian and the Hmong that came over. And I mean, my heart is just really soft for the Southeast Asians because they came over as really destitute people and really did really well for themselves. So, excuse me. And so anyway, I'll give this back to you. And I really care a lot for UC Irvine. If it wasn't for UC Irvine, I wouldn't become the person that I become after all these years. I'm an old guy and I love it.
So, Al,
I'm sorry, can I just follow up? Because I also want to say, as I hear your story, although our line to each other is not clear and linear, I think you've paved the path for me as a teacher now that teaches English language learners, and me as a daughter of Vietnamese refugees.
Well,
so just hearing you, just want to say thank you. Yeah, you could have. So I just want to say thank you for sharing your story.
Well, I always thought with the ambition of leaving the torch for somebody behind me, because I knew that, that I needed to leave a spark when I took off.
I also want to say, record your oral history. Here in this archive or at Cal State Fullerton, there are collections of oral histories. And if we don't record them, then the next generation after us won't have the chance to hear this story. And it's that I said, now I know wrongly, that not much came from the 72 protests. It was because that was what was in the archives when I looked. And if your story is not in the archives, people won't know how to tell it. So thank you for sharing it here, but let's sit down with someone like Twee.
When you mentioned that picture, and I realized that that's because I was told they needed Hispanics, and that people had protests because of that. It's just like, wow.
And in that picture, I'm convinced they didn't even spell Lucy Gutierrez's name right. They spell it G-O-R-T. Who spells Gutierrez that way? You know, like, I haven't yet found Lucy Gutierrez herself. You know, it was a picture, and you can tell it's not a high quality picture. When the LA Times digitized its photos, they didn't think that was an important photo to digitize.
Well, you know, that was
And-
part of the 1968 walkouts.
Yes, the blowouts,
Yeah,
yes.
that was part of that. I was walking out.
Yeah.
And it was
So-
because of that blowout that I was recruited, taken off the streets of East. I was a gangbanger. So I was taken off the streets without any preparation to succeed at UC Irvine. So
This is what I hope for our book, that everybody will see how their stories connect to a bigger story. But you already knew it.
so thank you.
Yeah.
Hi there, Donovan Rinker-Morse. I'm an Anaheim resident. So I've been wandering through Orange County trying to see most of the sites, or at least as many. I've made it to maybe a third of them. One of the things I don't like is that a lot of them have been torn down or destroyed, and there's important stories that need to be visualized in a way that people can understand. The Fricker fertilizer plant, which is the entry right before the Fujishige strawberry farm, that's probably one of the most important environmental stories in the county. And kids they think they should go there. I think there's a strip club on that facility now. But it's the kind of thing that with some work, I mean, a chemistry class, blowing up stuff was fun in chemistry for me. A film class, they can reenact and create and then even compete with one another to see who can make the best fire that reenacts the site. But so many of the other sites, unless there's some work done, nobody's ever going to connect beyond the story that they read. The origin of mortgage-backed securities in America. The Harris House, which... The Harris House, the firebombing in 1956. Yes. And I mean, that has a story that's Black history, that has a story that's law enforcement history, forensic history, freeway design, among others. There are so many ways to approach the book that you've produced that should be accessible. So I'm so thrilled to hear from people who are developing curricula to do that, and would love to know more, and love to know more about what the community can do to assist. Because when I go to the Harris House firebombing site and there's no Harris House there, I still can read further into your book, and I can see, okay, there were other places in Placentia where families were trying to move. And I'll bet you some of those developers are still around today, or at least somebody bought the properties and sold the properties, and there's stories that are even relevant now, 50, 60, 70 years later after the stories were told. So I would love to see more about what can be done and what is actively being done at K through 12 and beyond in the community. Thank you so much.
We need new plaques. We need new orange crate labels. But whatever it is going to be, the orange crate labels. Like, I want there to be songs where people hear their history, because people don't all learn history not from a textbook and not from a book like this. There needs to be some other way. So I love that the Heritage Museum is helping to redefine what heritage means, because too often in Southern California, Heritage Museum meant white people's heritage. Mm-hmm. And to figure out that broader heritage, and then to figure out how to share it. I want there to be an app so that as you walk around, your phone will ding, something important happened here. But we are just the scholars, and you're the museum people, and you're the educators. It takes more. Yeah. Like, it's going to have to be the muralists and the musicians and the others. I don't even know yet what the new orange crate labels will be. Maybe we'll figure that out together. Maybe that's the dream that Virginia was talking about.
But also, can you join our tour?
Yes. We're doing a tour of Placentia in a couple weeks with K through 12 teachers. Yes, and starting at the Harris home.
Right after I went there were maybe 3 different artworks that came out on Facebook, etc., that are telling the same story you were telling 4 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe.
I love it, because it's not just our story. We want it to go out in the world. And we want others to tell it and amplify it and find new angles on it. This is our book is a series of appetizers, an invitation to dive into the deeper feasts that you can. And so watching other people dive in, I guess I'm mixing my metaphors.
No, it's a good metaphor, Elaine, because we actually do have restaurant recommendations in there. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah, and so that part of seeing what develops, the muralists and the musicians and the artists and the public commemorators and the app developers, it's on them now. They get to decide.
And to try to continue that, is this on? To try to continue that, I guess an idea is that, with our lessons, there was only, a handful of us teachers, each of us building out a couple lessons, but a part of the stream is to inspire. That when another teacher sees what we're doing, they're like, I can do this too. So they may see my lesson that maybe centers one moment in Santa Ana's history, and they're like, I want to do this for Lake Forest history. I want to do this for Costa Mesa history. And so we're trying to create a model to inspire others, but also our students. We want our students to be curious. We're bringing in these primary sources and stories to our students so they can be curious, so they can ask questions, they can find out more. They have the internet, they have this book. So the ones that want to know more, we're kind of opening the doors for them and giving them the opportunities.
And another thing you can do is you can ask your school district and your schools to invite our curriculum developers in to host a professional development and share what it is that we created, and more importantly, share how we did it so that others know how to do it themselves. Because there was a whole learning process about reshaping your mind to look at a parking lot and figure out what a lesson would be. We had to go through a lot of our own mental gymnastics to get our minds there and get our lens framed in an ethnic studies framework, but in a local, and I know, Elaine, we don't want to call it local history. We want to call it history, right? But in the history, our community, our immediate community, and the history around us, that all took work. And I know that the curriculum developers and our collaborators and community partners, we want to show folks how to do it. So that's another option is like speak to if you have children or your local schools, tell them about what we're doing and say, we would love to show you how we did it so that you can do it yourselves.
But I also want to say, K through 12 teachers, they're coming off a pandemic. They had to switch to teaching online. Then they had to be like the first point of contact for kids who were going through a lot. K through 12 teachers are exhausted right now. And yet they came out one Saturday a month for the last, 7-8 months? I mean, I am in awe of these people. They come out one Saturday a month we did a walking tour of Santa Ana, then we met at the Heritage Museum, then we met here at the archives to talk about why primary sources are important. We worked together. We did a bus tour of Garden Grove. We had so much fun learning from each other. And I feel like we haven't yet told you just those basics, that this is an incredible amount of passion that people and time that people put in. And it's also collaboration, because way too often university professors like me show up at a school like, hi, I'm the expert, let me tell you how to do it. And it was thanks to Stacy and Virginia especially developing a way that wasn't just top down, that was working together. That is really amazing. And it's actually hard to explain in a group like this, except you saw the magic that's resulted.
Yeah, if I can kind of piggyback off of all of that. Another thing that was really essential to this whole collaboration, especially with our local educators, was that, well, I know at least on my end, I learned a lot because I am not a teacher. I kind of do more business and like vision kind of things. And so, one thing that completely blew my mind was that our local history teachers are not provided textbooks and that you have to kind of seek out your own. I also learned that, a lot more about content curriculum and standardized testing and, you know, some of the initial questions that came up with this development was, you know, well, we have to teach this, and the gold rush, for example. How it kind of got us to think, how do we take something they're already teaching and intertwine it with this? How does it connect? And that was what was so beautiful about the work that you guys did. You made those connections and you made them easy and fun. And I know your students are going to feel the same way. But that was a huge thing that we took into consideration with the lesson plans and the template design was, okay, how do we take what we're already doing? Because teachers don't have time. They don't have time to write a whole lesson that is like from ground up. So we tried to make it all work together. So
I think also where we begin, and I believe this is one of the fundamental things that created the magic sauce that everyone's referring to, is really, you know, blending the imagination and courage with recognizing that we can make demands of our university. Our, you know, academic libraries can reimagine who their public is, right? And I think in this particular example, UCI Libraries Special Collections has an excellent track record of thinking about what community means, who we're serving. Our students come from Orange County. They reflect our county's demographics. So to truly lend, you know, them an education that is world class, like UCI likes to say, right? It means that we need to be in partnership with the people who are closest to them, their K through 12 educators, their parents, the, you know, cultural heritage leaders in the community. I think breaking down those silos is where we begin. And like Elaine says, you know, we need to break kind of these elitist ideas of who should have access to academic knowledge and research, and let's make our research translatable, right, across different spaces. So that's
hello, so I'm Carolyn Torres. I have one hat today, but I also wear another hat. So I'm president of Santa Ana Unified School District, and I'm also an ethnic studies teacher in Anaheim. And I do want to highlight, like, you all are doing really great work, but you've stepped into a history before that. And so Santa Ana passed their first ethnic studies class in 2015. Prior to that, it was a Mexican American history class. They started the People's History in the summer of 2018. And it was through, and the ethnic studies class borrowed heavily from Gustavo's book, Orange County, with Benjamin Vasquez, right? And they were doing the tours through the heritage with Kevin Cabrera. And so I want to highlight Santa Ana's role in being a lead in ethnic studies. Oftentimes, I don't think folks understand Santa Ana. And so I just want to make sure that I'm highlighting that. So yeah, we've been the lead. We have probably about 10 or so teachers. We have about 1,000 kids in ethnic studies classes in Santa Ana right now, 9th graders. We were the first district to pass the ethnic studies requirement in Orange County as soon as I got elected. And so there's a lot of, we have an artivist class, we have a theater class, we have 2 English classes, we have the ethnic studies elective. Anaheim also passed the high school requirement. They have a couple English classes, 5 Spanish classes, one of which is using this book as one of their, the Spanish, for Spanish speakers too, is using this book as one of their ethnic studies. And so I wanna, like, this work is really great, and it's really good to see so many more people from so many more communities doing this work. But we wanna make sure we're grounding in some of the work that, and Gustavo's been doing this a long time, a lot of you have probably been doing this a long time, maybe in isolation, right? And so I think some of you presented for some of the courses here and there with, like, Mike Rodriguez and like, so I think it's important to make those connections, specifically because Santa Ana has been continually marginalized. And so I want to make sure we're not forgetting it in this story.
Santa Ana is the type of city where an ethnic studies teacher is a council member, Ben Vasquez. I mean, that's the type of city Santa Ana is, straight up. So yeah, I mean, I hope that in being so excited about Orange County history, you all also accept your Orange County privilege, especially Irvine. God bless Irvine. It is still the city where if you're from Santana, you try to play you try to play soccer in the parks, they'll call the cops, and it used to be white people calling the cops. Now it's Persians, Koreans, all of that. Multiculturalism, isn't it beautiful? Not when it's in Irvine. So I think with the book, if you haven't read the book, it tells those stories. I mean, we have to speak about all of it and all the tensions and all the communities, and also though the communities that have been fighting, like especially the walkout of '72. I didn't know about that until doing this book, but also and I think this book tells you all these resistances. And Elaine kind of talked about it a little bit. Yes, Orange County was this evil, horrible place, Nixonian and Birchite and all this stuff, but there's always been resistance. There's always been resistance. All these walking tours and all of that. There's been it's not even the book, but I mean, you want to talk about multiculturalism in like a down sense. You had Japanese and Mexican farmers striking in Los Alamitos in 1908. And by the way, you want to talk about what a weird Orange County we live in now? Los Alamitos High, Los Al High, has an ethnic studies class right there. I forget the teacher's name, but she had me speak there, and I talked to the students. When I was growing up, Los Al was just big, huge high school football players. And now, like, seeing this class was just incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
And yes, we know Santa Ana is a leader in this, and it's amazing.
And I want to say thank you. As you were speaking, I felt so humbled by the history that you were sharing. And thank you for using the word privilege, because that's exactly what I needed to hear, because you're right. Like, I'm realizing, and I hope it's okay that I'm just being really vulnerable to everybody here, but I'm realizing the privilege of my lens coming in here and realizing I didn't even know to ask that question. And so now I'm like, wow, what can I learn from Santa Ana? Am I saying it right?
Santana.
Santana. What can I learn from Santana and from you and all those teachers that have been doing the work? And something that Stacy and I forgot to do was to acknowledge that we are not starting anything. We are a part of something much bigger that will continue on far before or far after we're gone, and that we couldn't have been here without the histories of individuals like you, sir, without the histories of all the teachers who have already have been doing the work, from all the people who've spoken out over and over and over again and demanded history and teaching and schools fulfill that promise to give everyone opportunity, to be a place of joy, to be a place of opportunity, to give privileges to everybody, right? So thank you so much for that moment of teaching, and I'm like so excited to learn from you.
There's still plenty more time left for questions.
Jeff Kim, Irvine Unified School District. Can I just say, like, our Irvine teacher is just so amazing. Just give them a big hand once again. So proud of our Irvine teachers. And then also our Superintendent Walker right here of Irvine Unified School District, right here as well. 36,000 students and 45 schools. And I'm just so excited about this course. And I'm wondering, like, what will the student work look like in 2024? So when this course begins in 2023, and then the students are learning and growing and they're creating student work, what might that look like in 2024?
I don't know. And that is what is so amazing about it. Because again, and we've said it before, we are not the experts. This is kind of just, a contribution to the efforts of educators, of administration within school districts, to kind of share our support and to be a part of that work. And, as I was driving here, I was even thinking, and I meant to mention this earlier, so I'm glad you said that, because we really don't know what kind of wings this is going to take. And in the hands of incredibly capable, talented, brilliant educators in our community and other community leaders that step in to assist, and maybe more textbooks from these amazing authors and others. Maybe one of you will write a book. It's kind of, that's the fun of it, is we're excited to watch the journey of this work. Far from finished, hardly at all. This is not a finished product. You know, we encourage collaborations and we encourage additional contributions, and that's kind of, I'm really happy you asked that, because that was something I wanted to cover, was that this is going to be ongoing, and we hope that it continues well beyond 2024 for sure.
We do have, in the book, there's a teaching appendix written by other teacher friends of ours that asks students to create cognitive maps of Orange County and then add in things as they read the book. They have other ideas about studying keywords like intersectionality or settler colonialism, and then finding where those keywords are in one place that's important to them, that's in the book too. And the students put together these amazing presentations where they find more themes than we knew were there. And the assignment that a lot of teachers use is write a new entry, because our book has about 110 entries in it, but it is not comprehensive. It's a people's guide and not the people's guide. It's one invitation. And so I'm most excited to see what else students will write that will be, you know, volume 2. But I think Virginia and Stacy can tell us even more of what that work will look like.
Well, and I, again, in my space of being humbled and trying to, I just have so many questions about what other schools are doing. But the dream that Kiersey and I have for our class would be, at the end, the students, it circles back to what is Orange County, and the students define it. And because it's an art and history interdisciplinary course, what we imagine is that the kids are actually going to create some kind of an exhibit where they decide what Orange County is, and then we would invite the community to come take a look, and the kids get to tell that story.
I want to also call attention to something that you're doing, Dr. Jeff Kim, like in your own school, right? You develop curriculum for Korean American history or Korean American experiences. And I think part of that was also getting students to think about advocacy, like where their learnings can go in terms of affecting social change, whether it be small at their school or even wider in their community. And so I think that's an important lesson or an outcome that could be about them pushing, towards more collaboration between organizations that do cultural heritage work and archives and, academic work. And so I think about Preserve OC, right, that they have a map of Orange County where they map out all the different markers and important places that we need to know about. What if students could contribute to that, right? Because they're defining the OC that they want to learn about. So I think it's about thinking creatively about who we can bring in and how do we teach students to learn the vocabulary to advocate for the kind of education that they want, and then be attentive and listen. Like, use the strategy that you showed us, right? Listen to what their needs are and be responsive.
There was a question in the back. There.
Do I get a mic? Oh, yeah. I mean, I can project. I appreciate it. Hi, Steve Moreno Terrell, professor of ethnic studies in Coast Community College District and also public historian, also involved in this sort of work, specifically in the Inland Empire, most of my experience. But building on the conversation of the synergies that you're developing from educators at all levels, the university, as well as heritage sites and archives, is there room or is there the idea to also identify those community workers who have also been doing this memory work, as we understand it, and also liberatory memory work, who have been doing this for as long as there's been colonias, barrios, and other spaces for communities of color throughout the region. And so, and I can think in Orange County, there are several examples, the Orange Barrio Historical Society, and I believe there was an Orange County Mexican American Historical Society. And so to partner with those organizations, as well as highlight and support the existing work of community elders and memory workers. So I'm thinking, are there also, plans to kind of cultivate those networks and partnerships with students as well to support things like community digitization days and family oral histories and things of that nature as you're curricularizing this local history and memory work?
Thank you for that question. Yes, and I want to actually call attention to the work that is being done right now and here in the space. So maybe Crystal can talk more about the community-centered archives work.
Oh my goodness, you made me smile so hard. Because we've had such a privilege to receive a Mellon grant and an IMLS grant to support the intersection of ethnic studies and community-centered archives. Here at UCI and Special Collections, we've been partnering with community organizations on preserving their histories or creating archival materials or identifying archival materials or preserving archival materials, whatever it is that they want to do. We are here to support it, and we have students who work with us to do that work. And one of our students is in the back there, Star, who's been working diligently for the entire quarter on inventory for Second Baptist Church. We have a wide range of organizations that we've been working with, so they don't have to be libraries or archives, because the history is there, it's been there, there are people doing it. It doesn't have to be here at UCI. It doesn't have to be at Cal State Fullerton to be legitimate, to be accessible, right? So we see our role as supporters, as advocates, and making sure that those histories and that work is done and supported by others so that there's access to it by the communities that they serve. And if we can help in that, then that's what we're here to do. So thank you so much for asking that question.
And please walk around the corner to see some of the archives that they have on display. There is Chen Li Truk. I know I'm mispronouncing his name. Thank you. His photos of the protests in Little Saigon in the late 80s or 90s. Sorry, excuse me. They're just over there. The folders of LGBTQ and allied parents from the 1980s from Irvine, they're over there. A KKK recruitment poster, it's over there. You can just walk around the corner, and Crystal has pulled it out for you all to see the kind of archives that are already here, but Crystal and Audra and the others at UCI are doing some incredible work. They're also, you didn't mention it, but you're working also with OC Archives in Action, with memory keepers from all around the county in really amazing ways.
You're still looking at me.
Okay.
This is Jamie will take it. Shameless plug. It's a very small world.
Oh, I wasn't even going to do that. Hold on, I will. No, just to emphasize, to go back to your question, something we didn't even discuss were additional community partners that aren't present tonight. Something that we wanted to do with this grant is right in line with what you're saying, is to further support these memory keepers. And so part of the funding we also delegated to organizations like LibreMobile, who does digital archiving that is open to the community, open to any of you. So we wanted to make sure that we purchased the textbooks through LibreMobile as well. We made sure we had enough copies for everyone in our group, but also we are purchasing with the grant funding one classroom set that is going to be on loan for free for local educators that want to be a part of this or share with their students. We also, I mentioned food insecurity earlier, and that kind of ties into the fact that so much of our heritage is actually passed on through our food systems too. And so we wanted to give back to local, Alta Baja, definitely, but community restaurants that represent that part of our community's culture and heritage. So much of the funding, we did our very, very best to turn back into our own community, which both of those are in Santa Ana. So yay!
And then thank you, Jamie. I wanted to address your also question. I felt like there's like a K-12 part of it too. And again, being very vulnerable and sharing with you that I'm I'm growing even as I'm speaking here and I'm listening, and the questions that are being asked and the histories that are being shared. Like, I'm growing. And one of the thoughts I had, and the word that I really that really resonated with me, was that word of liberation, right? And when we talk about what it means to build, again, that promise of what school is, I think of liberation as well. And one of the ways in which we liberate is that we expand and open and change how knowledge is transferred. So I hear what you're saying, and our grant got us as far as this. Then this is only one moment of, again, a wide story. And as I think here, and here's me dreaming out loud, right? As I sit here, one of my dreams would be for us to bring K-12 to those communities directly and have them be the storytellers and the history givers and the knowledge passers to our youth. So that not only do we need archivists to record that, but we have our youth, it's like direct, right? So as I hear you, I would love to hear more and learn more, because I would love to see how I can at least start that in my own classroom. And maybe other schools are already doing it and I can learn from those models first. So yes.
And when our lessons are made public, really important to us, because we got to work with partnership with the museum, with authors and archivists, was making sure that the sources we bring in, we can connect it back to where we got it from. So again, students experiencing that lesson can be like, oh my gosh, like this person lived in this community. This is where the story came from. Wait, they're still alive. How can I learn more? One of the lessons, I know that we sourced videos from OC Public Libraries from members of the Hashiman tribe telling their story. So we're hearing from them from this oral history recording. And again, there's a lot of work we still need to learn and do. It was such a struggle trying to find these pieces all over, but we did, that was the lens we used to make sure we were able to provide the stories and perspectives from the people from these communities, so that, again, students seeing this can be like, wait, this is just like right there. Are there more? Are there more videos? Are there more stories? Can I read more? Or can I visit that even on the weekend, because I know where you're talking about? So yes, thank you for that question. That is something that we really try to do, but I know that there is more we can do there.
And you can visit many of these archival materials from these organizations, such as Libromobile and Second Baptist Church, at the Orange County Archives Bazaar on Sunday, March 12th, presented by Archives in Action.
Which is also a collaborative effort between UCI libraries, Cal State Fullerton and Chapman. And so a lot of different institutions coming together, and I think that model there, for me, is what represents possibility. I think we have to hold our academic, institutions accountable and ask these questions about how they do liberatory memory work. So thank you for bringing that terminology into this space, because I think that's what we all are trying to do. I think everybody in this room has a role to play in building capacity for groups that have been historically marginalized or erased. And so it's really the time to think about how to do liberatory memory work in your lane, whether it's K through 12, whether it's academic library spaces, whether it's in the university classroom. There's a role.
I just want to offer the Santa Ana's support. When you're looking for archives, there's a lot of stuff. And one of the things that was inspired by Gabriel San Roman's article on the kind of racism the district had towards students during the Spanish flu. And he had access to our archives, looking through minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I have access to these archives. And so we should be doing more projects dealing with the district minutes. And so one of the things that I proposed at a couple of board meetings ago is for the district to formally apologize for segregating Mexican students. So my grandmother went to a segregated Mexican school, Fremont Elementary in Santa Ana, that is now the board that I'm sitting on. And so there's a lot of people like me who probably don't realize that their family attended a segregated Mexican school. But when you start opening up the archives and publishing names, we can start looking for folks. So that's a project I want us to embark on. Y'all are more than willing to join it. I haven't started it. I'm just planting seeds. But and so primarily through our ethnic studies teachers in Santa Ana. There's also a professor at Fullerton that does archival work that I know really well, who's from Santa Ana. She's a Santanera. And so there's that work. We also in Santa Ana at a couple board meetings ago passed a resolution to have a land acknowledgement, follow the Pledge of Allegiance after every board meeting, during every board meeting. We kicked it to a Native American grant group and our ethnic studies group. They're gonna draft it, bring it back, all that process. But there's things that can be done with students, and one of the advocacy would be to name what's happened, to recognize what's happened, and have the entities that did it apologize, acknowledge and apologize for it. And even on the board, I'm apologizing for what it's done to my grandma. So it's a weird kind of paradox, but it goes to show that you inherit things that you may not have done, but you're still an inheritor of it.
Yeah. Liberate the damn archives. There's so much dirt in those archives. And I'm going to give you one example, and it's working right now. A decade ago, a friend said, hey, do you want the list of all the Orange County members of the Ku Klux Klan from the 1920s? I'm like, hell yeah. He gives me the list, and I'm reading the names. I'm like, some of these names seem familiar. So I just start Googling. I'm like, oh, there's a street named after this guy. There's a school named after this guy. There's a park named after this guy. And yeah, they were all men. There's a building named after this guy. I'm thinking, okay, I know what I'll do. I'm gonna do a list, a weekly series called OC Pioneers Who Are Klan Members. And so I would find, the books, this is a decade ago. So now there's far more books about Orange County history, but I'd go to the official books of Orange County, and all of these men would have these wonderful biographies. He was, God-fearing man. He's a member of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, and his church is this, and he belongs to the Kiwanis Club, blah, 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 blah. And none of them mentioned that they were Klan members. And so I would do that. Like, here's a history. Oh, yeah, by the way, he's a Klan member. We got so much hate on that. First of all, saying, how do you know this list is right? Well, it's in the Anaheim Public Library, and it was compiled by Leo Friss, who is one of the official historians of Orange County, but also fought the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s. Okay, well then secondly, why are you writing it now? Like, these people are dead. They can't defend themselves. So how dare you? I'm like, well, first of all, you can't defame the dead. Secondly, spare me. And then, of course, the best answer was like, well, the Ku Klux Klan wasn't so bad in Orange County. That wasn't bad in the 1920s. They weren't the bad Klan. So I did that series continued for 2 years. I finally had to stop it, not because someone forced me to, but I think I had to move on to other things. Well, you want to talk about contested history. The Anaheim Public Library now, because Mike Rodriguez and other people, they tried to get a school, Fanning Elementary, renamed because Fanning was on this list of the Klan. And the school district is like, well, how do you know that this list is real? So now the Anaheim the Anaheim History Room, to their shame on you, Jay Newell. If any of you know who she is, tell her shame. Gustavo says shame on you. Now they have a disclaimer that we don't know what the provenance is of this list. Give me a goddamn break, because you sure as hell were not telling me that when I was hitting you up about this a decade ago. So liberate the damn archives.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I in college I researched with Jane. Well, not with her,
cool
but
she's
awesome. She's awesome. But it was pre this, and it was for a school paper, and there was no restrictions on it. There was no, so that I didn't know that. I
was just told that by Gabriel, actually, on a story that he's doing. And you want to talk about how the world changes and how weird Orange County is? Brea was a sundown town, so you could not be black and be in the city by sundown. Well, they finally elected their first black council member. He's a Republican.
But the elementary school has a new name.
It does have a new name.
I think that it's a pendulum swinging, that Gustavo's articles from 10 years ago resonated with activists just 2 years ago. That sometimes it takes a little time. But
who has the new monument for the KKK did their biggest meeting?
Yeah, Pearson Park. Yeah, he has his basketball course. Any other question?
I've been told that I need to say that we need to stop.
We'll take the conversation outside.
There's going to be an official closing, but I'm going to do one too. So, because I can. Can I have the mic? I want to thank everybody here. It's been absolutely amazing to work with you over the past several months. I get a little choked up about it because you've been so inspiring. And I really do hope that this space has been an opportunity for us to see each other and to know who it is we need to reach out to next to work together, because there's so many opportunities here to learn from each other, to grow, and to think about what steps come next in this work. So thank you all for taking the time to even be here, to ask your questions, to give your commentary, because this helps us to learn who we are and who's in this together. So thank you.
I can only add my thanks to all of the speakers for their incredibly inspirational, energizing remarks, plus awe-inspiring work that all of you do. So please join me in one more applause for all the speakers and the moderators. So I'm going to try to make this quick in terms of closing remarks. I want to thank our co-sponsor for this, the UCI Illuminations, and the Andrew W. Mellon Fellowship for Diversity, Inclusion, and Cultural Heritage at the Rare Books School for their generous support of library programming. This event would also not have been possible without the support of the UCI Libraries Gateway Society. And so I want to invite all of you to become a member of the Gateway Society, which really helps to support UCI's world-class research, teaching, and patient care. It also supports the library's role as a major information resource for the community, and it helps to sponsor public programs and events like tonight. I also invite you to help improve our future programming. We have a brief survey, and if you could fill it out and drop it off at the desk, that would really help us. And everyone who attends this event tonight will receive an email afterwards with the link to the recording so that you can share it with other people. And it will also be on the UCI Libraries YouTube channel. And so now it's time to enjoy the archives in the conference room. Just hang a left near the beverages, or to enjoy the refreshments on the patio. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you.